Hey everybody, welcome back to Quali-Tea time. Been a little while. Okay, so...
Yes, this is a news segment that is actually so wild I actually have to change scenery. Imagine that! Thank goodness for a tripod and storage. Anyways, so... First piece of news is, of course, that I released basically no videos for the entirety of last week. I also was a bit late on, I think it was Friday's video. Basically, Buzz was still getting over from their stomach bug, so they went home to their mother to, like, basically get taken care of. That's what everyone likes to get from their mother. Which then meant I was alone here in the fox den. And that then culminated in probably the longest period of time I've not had any human contact whatsoever in actual straight years. So, evidently that's a thing I actually need, because my executive function just completely keeled over. I had trouble getting out of bed most days. Don't know, executive function is more or less your brain's ability to say, here is what I need to do, here is doing it. And the executive function is the part that gets you to actually doing it. And if you don't have that, it's not so much that you lack motivation or that you're lazy, it's that your brain just can't complete the step of getting up and doing it. And I didn't have that for basically a week. That would have been fine most times, except that it went on for so long that basically my entire video backlog dwindled down to nothing. Buzz came back, I had human contact again. I'm not saying that's a necessity, but apparently it's some kind of requirement for me. And I went back to making videos. Okay, no problem there. Except that by that point, it was so bad I was having to make videos either the night before or the day of their actual release. If you didn't know, that's an extremely stressful production schedule. And that is enough to make a lot of YouTubers, apparently including me, pretty much keel over. So, about the second day of that, I put a poll out on Twitter saying, okay, here's the situation. Should I work really hard and get the videos done as quickly as I possibly can and keep pushing out gradually, slowly into a bigger buffer? Or should I relax, cool my jets as it were? I've just gotten back from executive dysfunction and work on the videos for next week. So this week. The sample size for that poll was about 30 people, which is not massive, I know, but it was completely unanimous. There was not a single vote for anything besides rest. So I took that pretty much as my sign, and I spent the whole week working on videos for this current week, and I'm currently working on videos for next week. And that's a lot calmer, a lot less stressful, it's a lot more mentally, health-wise, like, so much better. But that meant that I didn't get any videos out of it. So I did do most of the streams. I didn't do Yog Dwarves Live last week because I was explicitly told by people to not even think about doing a live stream on that day. But I did do Midnight Souls, and I did do Dungeons & Dragon hats, as much as it turned out to be. The next piece of news that we had from this particular week is sort of the continued saga of the P.O. Fox. So, been working on getting the P.O. box up and running so you can all send things, and we can have a nice little mail segment, which will probably be over here. So, it all begins one bright summer's afternoon as I stroll down to the local WH Smith, which in the basement has a sort of outlet for the Royal Mail, which is the national UK mail service. And I go up to them, I say, hi, I need to open a PO box, I have no idea how to do this, could you help me? And they say, oh, we don't do that here, you'll have to go to the main branch office, and that's on the other side of the city, so I'm already kind of annoyed. But I march over, as I've done many a time before to pick up a parcel, and I go in, and I say, hi, I need to open a PO box, how do I do this? And they say, oh, we don't do that here, but here's a little, like, card with your phone with, like, 3 numbers on it, I think this is the one you want. So, I go back here, and I make a few phone calls. and they say, oh, you want to open a P.O. box. Where do you want it to go? What purpose is it? We can't actually set this up over the phone. It was literally like the third thing that they told me. So, you'll have to go to the website, download some PDFs, print them off, fill them in and mail them off. And by this point I'm already kind of irritated. Okay, I've called you 3 times, I've been to 2 different locations today, but nonetheless, I shall go to your website and I shall look at this page. And I do. And it lists all 3 ways that I've already tried to get this PO box set up. I noticed that they have an online option. If, for example, you don't have a phone, or aren't nearby to a post office or something. I guess that makes sense. That's good. Yes, good. Progress. Yay. First sign of trouble is that it doesn't actually register the Fox Den's building as being 4 different flats. Because this is a renovated shop front. Okay, it's not the only system that's done that. We're probably okay. But I then go through to payment. And it starts to reject my card. And I can't figure out why this is initially, until I realize it's asking for proof of address. It's getting it, I'm assuming, from where my card is registered to, which is the Fox Den exclusively and not the entire building. So I think that the online system won't actually take my card because it thinks I don't actually have any residence here. Okay. Things are kind of getting irritating at this point. There's a library nearby. I have an account with them. They have printers that you can use. I'll go over there and I'll print off the forms and we'll send them off and everything will be hunky-dory. I have to navigate some roadworks that are back there, but I get there. And I have a little trouble remembering the formatting of my password because it's automatically generated. So I go to the bench and I ask them, okay, I'm having trouble remembering what the formatting of the password is, so how do I get back into the system to print things off? And they say, almost with a sullen look in their eyes, they have been overhauling their computer system since last October. And now, in order to reactivate that account, they need proof of address. You can see how this is going, can't you? I stopped by Maplin's on the way back, and in the year of our Lord 2017, I finally buy a printer. It is a combination printer, fax machine, photocopier, half a dozen things I'll never probably ever use, but I buy it, come back, and a little bit of reference here. I have had a ream of paper this thick for basically the entirety of my university life, which is a long freaking time. And it sort of followed me through half a dozen different university houses, and I was convinced it was stored in our gigantic pile of junk in a corner over here. But I get the printer here, and it now needs to print something off so it can align the headings, so I go off and find the big ream of paper, and fail. Because at some stage we evidently threw it out, or used it up, or something, because we do not have it anymore, so I have to go out again to get more paper, and I almost didn't, because it was the very last ream of paper they had and it wasn't even on the shelf. So I very nearly didn't even have paper to print anything up, but nonetheless, shelled out over like the better part of like 70 quid at this point, but I have the forms. I can now fill them out at my leisure and post them off, and we can open up the P.O. Box. Hopefully. But we shall see exactly what happens with that story. I shall fill you in more as I find out more. But with all of that, onto the schedule.
On Thursday, it's an episode of The Lost Hands as Ignalane goes gardening. We also have at 11 PM BST over twitch.tv/LyingBetMon another installment of Midnight Souls. On Friday, it's an episode of Dungeon Maker as Lying visits some old sites in the world of madness. On Saturday, it's Dungeons and Dragon Hats or The Coaster at 9 PM BST over twitch.tv/TheDragonHat. Once more, this is... We're either going to try and do the anime session that was so viciously hassled by Muffins' internet connection, or we're going to try and do some more Path of Steel, or I'm going to do more Overwatch competitive mode and die inside. We'll see what happens. On Monday, it's an episode of Spring Realms as we do some test running of traversal and some tiny aesthetic touches. On Tuesday, it's an episode of Edgington, as well as Yolk Dwarves Live at 9 p.m. BST. I'm just gonna not say the number because I've missed so many of these recently, but hopefully things go according to plan. Lastly for the week, on Wednesday, it's an episode of Mating Do, where the engineers go in search of some knowledge. And on to the questions. Of course, there was a lot of them on the last vlog because I missed a week, but I have a couple here for you. If you happen to have a question you want to ask me, leave it down below in a comment, and I'll see what I can do next week. Obviously, I can't answer every question that was answered, but nonetheless, here we go with a couple of them. So, from Chris Jarvis, we have the question of how much configuration is planned for Yolk Dwarf. This is in particular regard to trading and whatnot, and the answer is that when you are the runner of a kingdom, you can assign traders, and you can tell them to trade whatever for whatever. The difference between dwarves and villagers in this regard, however, is that dwarves actually have to have access to the items that they're trading, and they have to have somewhere to put the items that they've traded them for. They do not manufacture things out of thin air, unlike villagers. Maybe there's a lore reason for that you can come up with, but it's just the way that things work for Yolk Dwarves, because having them be able to manufacture anything would lead them to the situation that villagers are in, which is where you basically just grind them in a breeder for hours on end until you get a mending book or something. So, yeah, not the dwarves. Dwarves are too smart for that. It's Zordig asks, is Ignalane considered to be in the Lying verse? Yes, Ignalane's, the Lost Hands is part of the Lying verse. It specifically pretty much says so, more or less, in the opening episode, because it says that in every universe, there's a multitude of things to be done, and a person who has to do them. But in this universe, that person has gone missing. And the question from Zordik also states that Ignalane is not a lying, but there is a lying, or there was, or there will be, inside of the Lost Hands. It just isn't Ignalane, which is the twist of that series. So, keep watching, and you might be able to figure out who the lying is. Anyways, that's it for this time, and I'll catch you all, as always, next time.